Hello and welcome to the Cyber Rants podcast. This is your co-host Zach Fuller, joined by Mike Rotondo and Lauro Chavez. Today's topic, everybody's favorite, ransomware. We'll dive into that, but first, Mike, I have a feeling you have some news about ransomware.
I have some news about ransomware, but I thought I'd start us out with something really exciting: insurance. I'm not even going to bring up that Ohio State's paying Arkansas State tomorrow um, at 9 a.m.
Don't bring
Um,
that up. Don't bring that up.
with cyber insurance costs increasing, can smaller firms avoid getting priced out? Cyber insurance is quickly becoming an unavoidable part of doing business as more organizations accept the inevitability of cyber risks, such as those caused by ransomware. While other potential disruptions benefit from stable insurance providers with decades or even centuries of practice behind them, cyber insurance is a new field that has proven hard to comprehend. In many cases, premiums have rapidly increased as providers have become more cautious about being left on the hook for multi-million-dollar breaches. In addition to the cost of the premium itself, there's a growing tendency for more complex policies that make complicated demands of applicants that contain more clauses that will void coverage. For example, firms may need to meet a very strict prospective list of security solutions and precautions to qualify for coverage. We may touch on that later in the podcast. KeyBank customer information stolen by hackers by a third-party provider. Threat actors stole Social Security numbers, addresses, and account numbers of home mortgage holders at KeyBank. According to the Associated Press, the breach was allegedly caused by a third-party vendor providing multiple corporate clients, including KeyBank, with insurance services. According to AP, the hackers acquired the information on July 5th after breaking into vendors' computers. At the time of the writing, 9/5, KeyBank did not clarify how many of its customers were affected by the breach. In the meantime, because there are still lawyers, there is a proposed class action lawsuit over the data breach. The lawsuit highlights that this type of personal information can be utilized on its own and in conjunction with other personal details to perpetuate crimes against consumers, consequently cause significant damage to their money, property, credit, and reputation. The suit alleges had defendants properly maintained their systems and adequately protected them, they could have prevented the data breach. I think the lawsuits are going to become more and more prevalent as well if they can prove negligence on the part of the companies being breached. So that's something definitely you have to be aware of. Um, Stealthy Linux malware starts off small but gradually takes control. A stealthy new form of malware is targeting Linux systems in attacks that can take full control of infected devices and is using this access to install crypto mining malware. Dubbed Shikatiga, got lucky on that. The malware targets endpoints and Internet of Things devices that run on Linux operating systems and has been detailed by cybersecurity researchers at AT&T Alien Labs. The malware is delivered in a multi-stage infection chain where each module responds to commands from the previous part of the payload and downloads and executes the next one. By downloading the payload bit by bit, starting with a module that is just a few hundred bytes, Shikatiya can avoid being uncovered by antivirus software. It's also used a polymorphic encoder to make it more difficult to attack. And even more good news, there's a new evil proxy service that lets all hackers use advanced phishing techniques. Reverse proxy phishing as a service, which is now dubbed PaaS, platform called Evil Proxy has emerged, promising to steal authentication tokens to bypass MFA on Apple, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Twitter, GitHub, GoDaddy, and even PyPy, whatever the hell that is. The service enables low-skill threat actors who don't know how to set up reverse proxies to steal online accounts that are otherwise well protected. When the victim connects to a phishing page, the reverse proxy displays legitimate login form. The forwards requests and returns responses from the company's website. When the victim enters their credentials and MFA to the phishing page, they are forwarded to the actual platform server where the user is logged in and the session cookie is returned. However, as the threat actor's proxy sits in the middle, it can also steal the session's cookie containing the authentication token. The threat actors can then use the authentication cookie to log in on the site, bypassing MFA. So we got that going for us. QNAP patches 0-day used in new Deadbolt ransomware. QNAP is warning customers of ongoing Deadbolt ransomware attacks that started on Saturday by exploiting a 0-day vulnerability in PhotoStation. The company has patched the security flaw, but attacks still continue. And then for those of you outdoor enthusiasts, 200,000 North Face accounts hacked in credential stuffing attack. Outdoor apparel brand The North Face was targeted in a large-scale credential stuffing attack that has resulted in the hacking of 194,905 accounts on the NorthFace.com website. A credential stuffing attack is when threat actors use email addresses, usernames, and password combinations obtained from data breaches to attempt to hack into user accounts on other websites. The success of these The success of these attacks relies on the practice of password recycling, where a person uses the same credentials across multiple online platforms. I don't know of anybody that would ever do that. The credential stuffing attack on the North Face website began on July 26th and ended on August 11th. They were able to stop it on August 19th. Excuse me, it was discovered on the 11th, stopped on the 19th. After investigating the attack, North Face determined that the attackers managed to breach close to 200,000 accounts, including using valid credentials, potentially accessing the following customer information: full name, purchase history, billing address, shipping address, telephone number, gender, password, their rewards account, and account creation date. Last one, SharkBot malware resurfaces on Google Play to steal user credentials. An upgraded version of the SharkBot mobile malware has been spotted on Google's Play Store, suggesting a new blog post by Fox IT, part of the NCC group. The new version of SharkBot reportedly targets the banking credentials of Android users via apps that have collectively counted 60,000 installations. The new dropper doesn't rely on accessibility permissions to automatically perform the installation of the dropper SharkBot malware. Instead, the new version asks the victim to install the malware as a faked update for the antivirus to stay protected against threats. There's a couple other interesting headlines in here. Second largest U.S. school district, LAUSD, got hit by ransomware. China's accusing the U.S. of cyber attacks. Half of firms reports supply chain malware, ransomware compromises. And MooBot botnet is back and targets vulnerable D-Link routers. There's a couple other things. And if you haven't heard, if you've been living in a box, Google Chrome, there was a 0-day released on September 9th or September 5th. So go ahead and update that real quick. So with that, Zach, or Laura, excuse me.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. This week for exploits, we've got really just one to talk about for everybody out there who is using the Sophos firewall. If you've got the XG115 or even the XG105, if you're not familiar with these devices, they're a rack mount firewall appliance from Sophos. However, version 17.010 has a authentication bypass vulnerability, which is really, really clever. If you send a JSON string via the URL, you can bypass the security web login of this appliance and get administrative access to control the device. So for those of you running this firewall, make sure that you're not presenting this web interface for configuration to the public internet. And if you're only hosting it internally, it's not that big of a deal. Probably one of your internal employees isn't going to try to pull this off on you, but go ahead and patch and get off version 17.0.10. Even if you've got the 105, the XG105, go ahead and update that one too, just in case. I'm assuming, big assumption, because the iOSs are similar, because this authentication bypass works on the 115, it'll probably work on the 105 as well. Aside from that, if you're running WordPress, playing the dangerous games, carrying yourself covered in meat, jumping in a pool of sharks, you might want to check those. About 14 plugins that have exploits available today just from this last week. So I won't get into those, but if you like to play, if you like to live on the razor's edge, make sure you're looking at your plugins and getting those updated. Zach, I guess we're going to be talking about some clever ways ransomware gets in, like WordPress.
Yeah. Well, definitely update those Sophos firewalls now that you told everybody how to hack them. So spread the information around.
Wait,
now you got to jump on it quick. But really, yeah, WordPress, very dangerous, great game. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about ransomware in just a moment after a quick commercial break. We're back. Speaking of ransomware, I was thinking when I saw that article about the LA school district getting hacked, I felt bad for those kids because they don't get snow days there. If they ever have a chance of getting a day off, it would be a ransomware attack when all the computing systems are shut down. But they didn't even get the day off. They still had to go to school. So that's too bad.
That's when they pull out the workbooks and like take your pencils out kind of thing, you know?
Go old school.
Everybody riots. What's a pencil?
Yeah, eraser. You mean the delete key?
Yeah.
Or the backspace?
How do you write in cursive again? Yeah.
Well, that being said, ransomware is a big topic, but it seems like there's seasons. It comes and goes in the news, right? And right now it's in season, definitely ransomware season. Also deer and elk season, depending on where in the country you are. But for ransomware purposes, sorry, I got weekend brain going. But for ransomware purposes, let's talk a little bit about some of the basics, I guess, for maybe those people that are new to this or just listening to this for the first time, interested in ransomware in general and how to prevent it. Let's talk about how it infects environments to begin with. How does it get into your network?
Usually someone clicks on something like an Amazon gift card. There's a yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of ways. We could have a whole episode on just the deployment methods for ransomware that they're using today. I think some of the things that mentioned in the news, like evil proxy, is a great example of stealing user credentials. Not quite ransomware, but proxies like that can be used to deploy ransomware.
Right.
There's trusted updates. Again, you get just like the SolarWinds Orion as an example. They can take advantage of trusted software and then fool you into believing you have a legitimate update. Typically, though, I think the universal consensus on the most common way that ransomware is going to infect your environment is, number one, a user clicks on something because the user got fooled. And number two, you expose something that bypassed change management or that you weren't aware of that gets the front door kicked in. So those are really, kind of I think the two main ways, Zach, that at least I see are the most common that you get malware, you get ransomware put in your infrastructure.
Yeah, and going back to you talk about being the season. It's been amped up lately. They're getting everything from Ace Hardware, American Express, Chase, B of A, and then the phishing emails are looking really good. They're really close to being an actual. I mean, they look like they're using the actual templates of B of A and everybody else uses. So you gotta be real careful out there. So and double check your email. One of the things that's a dead giveaway for me is if it doesn't have the right email account. If it's sending to an email account that's not associated with that credit card. Always double check where that's coming from and who it got sent to. So,
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I think there's a lot of farming. If you're not familiar with the term farming, if you're not
mhm,
if you're not a video game guy, there's a lot of times you farm for assets, and one of the
mhm,
assets you can farm for is email templates and email formats. And I think a lot of the way that this is happening is you've got a bunch of would-be sales emails going out. They look like they're from a legitimate company, and they may be, but they're asking you, hey, do you need this service? Do you need that service? I saw this, and then you reply to them with your email, with your business email. Now they have your
no,
signature block, they
right,
have how you type, how you respond. That can go, especially if you're a CEO or a CFO or some C-level executive in an organization, and you respond to one of these emails, and you're like, man, the stupid sales guy, I'm gonna quit bothering me. And you
right,
send him a couple email messages to get him off you. That could have been somebody farming for your email template, and now they
right,
have your email address, your signature block, and now they can pervade themselves as you. Um, but I think first maybe it would be a good idea to just kind of talk about what the purpose of ransomware is and
mhm,
why it's so prevalent today. This has gone well beyond the Morris worm of the 80s, where it was all about infecting a computer to try to mine data. No
right,
one cares about your data anymore. No one
no,
cares about your social security numbers. No one cares about the credit card numbers you have. You have computers that run your business. Okay. If you're operating in the United States today or anywhere in the world, there's a 99.9% chance you're using some level of technology to fund and front your business. Okay.
mhm,
Whether that's a web page or you've got Active Directory or anything else. Okay. So you depend as a business in the 21st century on technology. The ransomware cyber criminals are going to extort you for money. Again, they don't care about your data sets. They realize your business leverages technology. They can take that away from you, hijack it, and hold it for ransom until you pay. And this can include anything from destroying your backups so that you don't have a backup strategy, which is something we should probably talk about, Mike, right? Where
yeah,
the insurance requirement is saying you need to have an air gapped backup. Okay,
right,
they're saying air gapped, meaning completely separate from your Ethernet network internal.
yeah,
Okay, completely no connectivity, because a lot of the ransomware games will include destroying the backups so that you can't come back. Now you're
Typically, they'll do
forced to
that
destroy your
first.
ransom.
Yeah,
Yeah, typically that's usually the attack plan.
yeah,
Get somebody to click on something, get the ransomware deployed, just locate and destroy the backups first. That's goal number one. Locate and destroy the backups, lock everything up with high encryption, and then send the demand letters through printers. They'll run your printer out of paper, printing the demand letters to go to the Tor site that they're going to host uh, for you to pay your ransom in cryptocurrency.
yeah. No, no, yeah. I mean, it's something that we preach, and there's a lot of people that are like, on it, you know, they only keep their backups online, and they're all in the same instance, and it's a dangerous, dangerous game. Um, you know, so yeah, I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. I mean, that's where we're at. What we're seeing though is a definite explosion of ransomware, which is why, you know, that first story we talked about with insurance is becoming more and more expensive because and they're starting to have requirements. It used to be that if you wanted cyber insurance, they're like, you have a computer, do you have this, that, and the other thing, and it was a minor questionnaire. Now they're getting real serious about what they ask and what they want, and um, you know, you have to have MFA, you have to have, you know, they're looking for password keepers, they're looking for, you know, other things like that.
Well, it was
So,
only a matter of time, right? I mean, because, just like driving a car, you're going to get
right,
punished for being a bad driver because
right,
the insurance company has to eat all this money on the back end. The same for cyber insurance. If you're just, hobo Joe, and you decide to build this, fake computer company to, like, make some money, and you get hacked, and you were eligible enough initially to get cyber insurance, all of your bad practices, 4 or 5 years ago, you could do completely stupid stuff and cyber insurance would cover you. Well, that only lasted for a certain period of time. Right now, they're starting to catch on to the con. They're saying, hey, these companies are behaving really badly, and we have to eat the cost of their mistakes, no more. So now there's going to be, now they're starting to, and we've had experts on that kind of, we've hinted at this before, but this is kind of an evolution that we've kind of seen coming, where now if they can go to court with you and prove that you were negligent, you didn't have multi-factor enabled, you weren't
mm,
air gapping your backups, you didn't align to ISO 27001 or something similar, they're going to show that you're negligent, you're going to be responsible for all the costs.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And that's if they don't, and if you lie about it, now they've got you for fraud too in the court.
right,
So
right,
when they call you on the stand and you said, when you went to entertain the idea of getting insurance and you answered a questionnaire, you filled out here that you had aligned to this framework, and now we haven't found any evidence of that. So now, so there's all kinds of bad things that are going to start falling out because of cyber insurance is getting tired of fronting the bill for stupid organizations who deliberately make mistakes, or they don't have the sheer intelligence to go out and ask for help, and
right.
they're costing these cyber insurance companies and costing you and our data, right? Data losses and service losses. Um, and they're not going to stand for that anymore.
Well, I think we're also going to see a larger amount of lawsuits, like we're seeing with the North Face one, you know, class action lawsuit for those 200,000 people, um, because of the negligence of the of, I think it was their vendor or whoever it was. Anyway, those kind of lawsuits, or actually, that's the one for Key Bank. Excuse me. Um, those kind of lawsuits are going to start happening more frequently. There was one that happened 5 or 6 years ago. It was in a hotel chain, and I can't for the life of me remember it, but it was a multi-million dollar
Was it
nine
Choice
figure
Hotels?
settlement. I want to say Radisson or something like that, but that may be Choice. I don't remember. But it was a big lawsuit, and they lied their asses off, excuse my language, of about everything that they had in place. And you know, they're running deprecated hardware and deprecated firewalls, and you know, that stuff you're gonna be forced to be responsible in order to just do business anymore. And I think it's the closest the private sector is going to come closest to regulating functionality and requirements for IT security. The government's not going to do it. They can't. They're too big. They can provide guidance. There's no way to enforce it, but the insurance companies and the private sector certainly can by fees.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Technology has been almost free relative to the benefit that it provides and the income it can produce for so many years. And now I see it as like a tax on using technology. You just got to do
Hmm.
these things. You got to pay
Yeah.
for it. There is no way around it. And to your point on insurance, it's not about getting a discount or getting anything. I hear from some top insurance providers. No, you just don't get it, period, if you don't have these things in place. So
Right.
they're now required. It's been interesting. We've seen a shift in our business where before it was all about, hey, we want to do these things because a client is requiring it or because we have these compliance requirements. And now we're hearing more and more, well, we have an insurance renewal coming up, so now we have to get these things
Hmm.
in place. So it's really interesting. Even just 3 years ago,
Yeah.
cyber insurance was cheap. They weren't enforcing anything, and now, wow, night and day difference.
Yeah.
Night and day. Well, back to the ransomware. I mean, and this is a perfect, kind of exit way for the insurance talk. Is that you again you make a mistake or a human makes a mistake and you get ransomware deployed and you get your backups destroyed and now you're losing money, right? If you've done service level agreements or operational level agreements that you've got these master service agreements with your customers that say if we're guaranteeing 99.9% uptime. Well,
Hmm.
now not only do you have to pay the ransom, right, because your systems are unusable at this point. Now you've also got to think about the downstream effect that's going to happen because now you're not meeting your service level agreements to your clients. If you're guaranteeing 99% uptime, odds are you have a clause in there that somebody agreed to that pays out some money if you don't meet that.
Yep.
So there's a lot of I'll say collateral damage that can come just from a simple ransomware attack. And here's the thing: is that the ransomware authors and the cyber criminals don't have to really try hard these days. It's a matter of walking along a busy street in New York and lifting car handles. Eventually, you're going to find one that somebody didn't lock their door, and the cyber criminals are continually scanning. They're continually trying. It's a shotgun effect. They're eventually going to get something that works. And when they find something that works, just like anglers out there in the world, when you find a fishing fly or a bait solution that works, you try to reuse it in that fishing spot, right? Cyber criminals are the same way. They're gonna realize this is all research and development on their perspective. They're gonna realize what works. They're gonna stick to that recipe until it doesn't work or until something works better. So
Yeah.
again, it doesn't matter if you got sensitive data. It doesn't matter if what matters is you got computers that we can lock up and stop your business. If the answer to that, if can you do business without your computers? If the answer to that is no, then you're susceptible to ransomware just like anybody else. So it's time to stop, I'd call it the poisoning thought process of, well, I don't have anything cyber criminals want, so I don't have to develop, or devote any time to cybersecurity or develop any cybersecurity programs or risk management because I'm just a simple computer company that's doing, X, Y, and Z. I don't have anything, right?
Right.
That thought process has to completely leave because, again, if I took all your computers away today, could you function your business? If the answer is no, you're susceptible to ransomware. You should have a strategy in place for how to prevent it, and at least proactive strategies in place for how to keep top of mind and keep your employees educated about not clicking on things. Um, so it's super important. Again, you're going to be paying it, and then the cyber insurance company is going to cover part of that cost, and then there's going to probably be just what we were talking about. It's going to be a big lawsuit on how you're negligent and now you owe them that money back, or something even crazier, right? Where you owe clients money now because you were down for 2 weeks.
It costs 4 times as much to fix an incident and repair the damage from an incident as it does to prevent it. And that's something a lot of companies would just say, we'll deal with it when it happens. It's like you guys just don't understand. And then for those of you who are listening to Laurel talking here and saying, oh, well, I'll just offload it to the cloud. It's not really a problem. It'll be their problem. That ain't how it works. Because they're insured too, but if you have control over the security of your cloud instance and how you're managing authentication and how you're developing your data, and you get ransomware in the cloud, it's not their problem. It is your problem. It's AWS is not going to bail you out, and you got to look at those contracts real close because they are not always responsible for security. They may be responsible for a firewall. They may be responsible for something of that nature, but they are not responsible for how you build your application and secure it.
Absolutely. It's a lot
So
like
yeah,
leasing a car, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
like technically it it's yours, but it belongs to the dealer. And if you go over the miles, or you're still responsible for cleaning it, maintenance, the whole bit. And yeah, it's if you have an accident in that car, you're still liable, not the company that leased the car to you, right? And so cloud compute works the same way. It's somebody else's computer that they're loaning you for a period of time in a terms of service, and you're responsible for the security of that system.
Exactly. So yeah, you got to think of that. And there's another reason why cyber criminals break in, and there's a lot of mining for Bitcoin still going on. They're trying to steal your compute resources to mine for Bitcoin, and that is definitely a thing. So
yeah,
be
those
aware
are
of that
more,
as well.
yeah, and those are more subvert. I think when they're using your resources to mine, they want to not be caught, because the whole premise is trying to get as many compute resources as you can to solve the next coin ledger problem, right? So this can get installed, and so the way to note this is if you notice your computer acting slow during certain times. But even some of the more intelligent crypto miners I've seen that will install as part of Chrome, they're doing stuff at night. If you leave the computer on, they're operating from like midnight to like 6 in the morning when nobody's awake. So they even the ransomware gangs and the compute resource attack gangs, they all know Americans kind of sleep schedule, right? So they're gonna enable their malware and their crypto mining malware to operate on the hours that we're typically sleeping. So my advice to everybody, if you're using a laptop, or even if you've got an old school desktop with a plug in the back, just turn your network adapter off when you're not using the computer. It's simple. You can right click, turn it off. If you've got a Mac, it's even easier. You just slide the button over, and now you're not on wireless anymore, right? So now your computer isn't attached to the network while you're not using it. So you can have some control over. You might be able to stop the crypto mining ware, but you can at least make them compete for their own computing resources while you're doing your normal day-to-day job, and they're trying to mine crypto while you're doing your banking. So there's always that.
Yeah.
Or you can
just
just turn
because
it
some
off.
things will. There you go. Turn it off and never start it again, and you will avoid ransomware indefinitely. And just for those people out there that don't know, air gap does not mean wireless. Just because there's air between the devices, completely we need that is not
it's
the
in the
definition.
cloud. It's air gapped. You know what I mean?
Despite popular belief, well, it's we laugh, but in all reality, people are essentially lying on questionnaires, or just, and sometimes out of well-meaning but just unknowing situations where they think, oh well, that makes sense to me, I'm just going to answer it as, yeah, I have that, or air gapped. But it's an interesting topic. I think ransomware is here to stay. I would say it's probably the most effective methodology for cyber criminals to do what they want to do, and what they want to do is make money. That's what the vast majority of cyber attacks are financially motivated. I haven't seen the latest stats, but last time I looked, it was well over 80%. The rest is you get some cyber warfare and hacktivism and things like that, other types of attacks. But for the most part, just remember, and there's a book that we rant about this and a lot of it, but just remember, these attacks are financially motivated. And if you make yourself a harder target than you're worth from a cyber criminal's perspective, then you're in a good spot, right? Minimize their return on investment and you are good. Well, that being said, any other final words of wisdom on ransomware, or any other topics that come to mind for that matter? Ohio State, Mike, anything else?
OH.
IO.
My final thought is, just to reiterate, don't have the illusion that you don't have anything cyber criminals want. If you have compute for your business and your business is making money, they want money. This is all about money. It's all about getting the money, all about the Benjamins, as they say. So if they can do so and extort you for money, they will. So be on your guard. Like Zach said, be a hard target. Make it hard for them, so it's not worth it.
You don't have to outrun the bear. You just got to outrun the guy you're there with. So.
Yeah, that's right. You got to run faster than the other guy.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the most security. You just got to be more secure than the T-Mobile next door.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Then Bob's bait and tackle down the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
Well, if you're faced, we brought up insurance, but if you're faced with one of these questionnaires, number one, don't lie on it. Number two, put those
Yeah.
things in place. It'd be good for you anyway. If you need some help, there's some great companies out there. I know of one in particular that's extremely good at implementing controls like that. And three, remember that in case of ransomware, just because you have insurance, it's not going to get you all your money back, right? And so you know that that is not a protection either. That's a last worst case. You hope you never have to use it, kind of thing. So don't rest too comfortable just because you're insured. Ransomware can still get you.
Yeah.
They might, and then the insurance might say, "We want to see receipts. We're not going to give you your policy. We want you to buy one chair and then show us the receipt, and then we'll reimburse you for that. We want you to buy one more router and see the receipt, and then we'll reimburse you for that." So you might be down a terrible road.
Well,
There
and for
you
the
go.
CFOs out there that are just thinking, oh, it's just going to be a short ding on my stock prices or valuation of the company, it's not that way anymore. Your insurance rates are going up. Your reputation is going down, and you're susceptible to lawsuits now. So write that check.
There we go. Well, thank you for listening to the Cyber Rants podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Reach out to us, cyberrantspodcast.com, or on LinkedIn or Carrier Pigeon, whatever you like, and let us know what you're interested in hearing about, different topics for the future. Be sure to rate the podcast, subscribe, share, all those good things, and it helps us spread the word. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode.